I'm Kira for Shakti Power Yoga. Today I am going to bring you another Yogi's book club. Honestly, I just ran a 20-mile run. I got a little black toe here, so I'm not looking to bring you an active yoga practice today. I'm sorry, I will be back next week with one of those, so definitely stay tuned for more creative flows from me. But today we're just going to talk about some yoga texts. So these two are classic. I'm going to talk about the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita. And then I also lumped this book into it. This is a modern text, and definitely not to the same caliber or popularity as these two, but it is just a very informational guide on yoga philosophy that's not trying to bring the author's personal practice or any kind of creative insight into the philosophy. Just like a straightforward, very fundamental guide to ancient yoga. So that's why I thought it kind of fit in with the other two. This episode, I guess, is called The Principles of Yoga because these are just the fundamental texts that every yoga student and teacher should read, just to get a basic understanding of where your personal practice comes from. So we'll start with the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali. This is obviously the pocket edition, so it's a very quick read, and you could just take it in your purse, in your bag, on the subway, and just spend a day or two getting through it. So it's very short, very concise, but you could just pour over it again and again and get more insight every time. The Yoga Sutras by Patanjali is the authoritative text on yoga. It's a collection of aphorisms that outline the 8 limbs of Raja Yoga, and what those 8 limbs can bring to the practitioner in terms of siddhas, the yogic powers. This book is a culmination of all the yoga ideas that were available through different schools 4,000 years ago. So Patanjali did not invent yoga. He did not create the practice. He just brought together every conflicting idea at the time to create this text. And he didn't even actually write the text down. He was just speaking, frankly, to his students, and they took these as notes. So this is in Sanskrit. It's only 200 lines, and it's just a very concise bullet point list of all things that are yoga or were yoga 4,000 years ago. Sutra is a word for thread. They really are just bullet points, just threads to get you to start thinking, and then you can explore the sides of yoga that are intriguing to you and what you want to delve deeper into. So this is a great first book ever. Start where all the ancient yogis started, with this text. I read Swami Satchidananda's version of this book. He's the founder of Integral Yoga, and he is also the yogi that opened Woodstock with an Om. Only the sutras that he felt needed clarification did he provide more depth for. So some of the sutras, it's just a direct translation, and then that's it. There's no elaboration of any kind. So that's why it can be such a short little text. And that's why I liked it, because it was just a quick read, and it wasn't superfluous with all the author's personal opinions. It was just straightforward. There are no negatives to this. It is just a staple for any yogi. 5 out of 5 stars. I love his translation, so definitely check this out. You can get it on Amazon, and all the books that I talk about today will be linked in the description below for you to check out the Amazon links for. So the next book I'm going to look at is the Bhagavad Gita, which is translated by Barbara Stoller Miller. The Gita is a section often taken out of its Hindu epic, the Mahabharata. This book has an excellent introduction to provide context. But basically, Arjuna is a master archer who is set up in war to fight against his cousins. He experiences such inner conflict at the prospect of killing his whole family that he just sits down and refuses to fight. Krishna is his charioteer, and this deity spends the duration of the Gita explaining to Arjuna how earth and heaven work. So Krishna works through many lessons in the dialogue. The earthly duty of man, the concept of destiny is preconfigured by the gods, the undying soul. He even reveals to Arjuna his true godly form as the destroyer, in which his form is described in great detail to the reader, which was really, really interesting. So I am recommending Miss Miller's translation here. It is really amazing. The introduction was really amazing if you don't have a background in Hinduism in order to understand where the text is coming from. So that was really amazing. And she is a linguist. She took the time to preserve the rhythm and flow and presentation of this amazing poem. So it really does read like a Shakespeare play. It is so beautiful. I really, really like her translation. So if you're thinking about reading it, get this copy. The only downside I have is, you have to be open to reading about different religions. Yoga in itself is not a religious practice. There's lots of roots in Buddhism as well as Hinduism. And so you don't have to prescribe to a certain religion to practice yoga, of course, but there are some religious origins to the philosophy of yoga. So reading any and all religious texts is useful just to understand the world better. So it is an amazing book, also 5 out of 5 stars. But honestly, I couldn't give these anything lower just because they are so classic and so fundamental to yoga. The last book we're going to look at is The Inner Tradition of Yoga, and it's written by Michael Stone. It's a really good text on yogic philosophy. Michael Stone is a psychotherapist. He's a Buddhist teacher, a yoga teacher, and an activist, as well as an excellent author who brings traditional teachings into contemporary context. So that was amazing. It is kind of a long read. The author knows his historical yogic texts. This book was so accurate. There was not one flaw that I could see, which is great because with as many conflicting views and origin stories of yoga, it's very often that I read a text where I'm reading something that I've read the complete opposite about in another book. So it is hard to kind of compile everything and to display that all to the reader and not kind of pick and choose what you personally believe in and only display that part. So that I really did enjoy. The author does circle around fairly simple concepts, I think. I think this book could have been half the length and had the same amount of material in it. So that's the only criticism I had, is that it's a little bit boring and a little bit too long. So if you're diving deep and want to learn about philosophy, yeah, this is a great text. It's super accurate. The author, has an amazing background, but it was just a little bit roundabout, a little bit verbose for me. So 3 out of 5 stars, I'd say. Definitely not a must read just because it is a little, take it or leave it, I guess. If you're really into philosophy, then maybe you'll be a little bit more engaged than I was reading this. But thank you for letting me share some of my ideas about these 3 yoga books with you. I really like the Yogi Book Club. I've been reading so many yoga books, so it's fun to be able to review them and just share my opinion on them. But let me know if you have any good yoga books that I should be reading, and let me know what you thought about these books if you read them. These first 2 ones, if you have a better translation or you think you do, comment it below. And thank you. I'll be back next week with an asana practice once hopefully my little my little purple toe heels, and I recover a little bit from my long runs. So stay tuned for that. I put out new videos every Thursday. Until then, namaste. I hope you're finding insight in yoga books that you're reading. Bye.